Everyone's already here, Sarah. We really can't accommodate more people, my sister-in-law Amanda said, her voice dripping with false sweetness through the phone. Maybe next time. I watched through my kitchen window as cars lined up outside her house across the street. My mother-in-law's SUV, my other sister-in-law Kate's minivan, even cousins from out of town. The aroma of Amanda's Sunday roast drifted over, a weekly reminder of our exclusion. Of course, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Have a nice dinner. My 11-year-old daughter, Sophia, appeared beside me, her green eyes reflecting the hurt I felt. They're all gathering again, aren't they, Mom? I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Yes, sweetheart. But you know what? I think it's time we started our own tradition. Sophia looked up at me curious. What kind of tradition? I smiled, an idea taking shape. 3 months ago, Sophia and I had started a small vegetable garden in our backyard. It began as a science project, but had blossomed into something more. Tomatoes heavy on the vine, fresh herbs that perfumed the air, and vegetables that tasted nothing like their store-bought counterparts. How about we have our own Sunday feast, with food we've grown ourselves? Sophia's face lit up. Can we invite Ms. Rose from next door? She always says hi when I'm working in the garden. Ms. Rose was our elderly neighbor who had been giving Sophia gardening tips. She lived alone and often watched with gentle interest as we tended our growing garden. That's a wonderful idea, I said, already feeling lighter. Why don't you go invite her while I start cooking? As Sophia skipped next door, I gathered fresh tomatoes, basil, and zucchini from our garden. My husband Tom was away on a business trip, as he often was on Sundays. I knew it pained him to see the rift between me and his sisters, especially Amanda. But he felt trapped between loyalty to his siblings and supporting his wife. The divide had started 3 years ago when Amanda decided to host weekly family dinners. At first, the exclusion was subtle. Oh, we thought you were busy, or it was just a last-minute thing. But as weeks passed, it became clear this was deliberate. Every Sunday, like clockwork, the family gathered at Amanda's house while we watched from across the street. An hour later, our kitchen was filled with the aroma of homemade tomato sauce and herb-roasted vegetables. Ms. Rose sat at our counter, showing Sophia how to fold napkins into flowers, her weathered hands moving with practiced grace. You know, Ms. Rose said, adjusting her glasses, my mother used to say that the best meals aren't about fancy china or perfect table settings. They're about the love you put into the food and the joy of sharing it. Sophia beamed, placing her carefully folded napkin on the table. Mom, can we eat outside? Near the garden. I looked at our small patio table, then at the garden beyond. Actually, I have a better idea. Together, we carried our old picnic blanket to a spot between the tomato vines and herb garden. I brought out plates of pasta with fresh tomato sauce, roasted vegetables, and herb bread. Ms. Rose contributed a homemade apple pie she'd been saving for a special occasion. As we settled onto the blanket, the setting sun cast a golden glow over our little feast. The garden air was sweet with the scent of herbs and flowers. From here, we could see Amanda's house full of people. But somehow, it didn't hurt as much anymore. This is nice, Sophia said, twirling pasta on her fork. It feels like we're having dinner in a secret garden. Ms. Rose nodded, her eyes twinkling. Every good garden tells a story, dear, and I think you and your mother are just beginning to write yours. As we ate, shared stories, and laughed under the open sky, I realized something profound. While Amanda's formal Sunday dinners were about maintaining appearances and control, our garden feast celebrated something simpler and more genuine, the joy of growing things, of sharing food made with love, of creating connections that went beyond blood ties. Sophia was explaining to Ms. Rose her plans for a pumpkin patch when I noticed movement across the street. Several of the younger cousins were pressed against Amanda's window, watching our garden dinner with obvious curiosity. Even Kate paused on her way to her car, her expression unreadable as she observed our little gathering. Mom, Sophia said, pulling my attention back to our circle, can we do this every Sunday? Make it our tradition. I looked at our simple feast, at the contentment on Ms. Rose's face, at the joy in my daughter's eyes, and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the evening sun. Yes, I said firmly, this is our new Sunday tradition. What I didn't know then was that our little garden dinner was planting seeds of change that would grow in ways I never expected. But that's the thing about gardens and families. Sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the smallest beginnings. Our garden dinners quickly became the highlight of our week. Each Sunday, Sophia and I would spend the morning harvesting whatever was ripe, planning our menu around nature's offerings. Ms. Rose became a regular presence, bringing her wisdom and warmth to our gatherings. As summer progressed, our little circle began to grow organically. First came Ms. Rose's granddaughter, Emily, a college student who started dropping by on Sundays when visiting her grandmother. She brought fresh bread from the bakery where she worked part-time and an infectious laugh that made our garden ring with joy. Then came the Martinez family from 2 doors down. Their 8-year-old twins had spotted Sophia's flourishing garden and begged to learn how to grow vegetables. Their mother, Maria, brought traditional family recipes that transformed our humble garden produce into extraordinary dishes. In my village, Maria would say, showing Sophia how to wrap zucchini flowers in corn tortillas. Food was how we showed love. We didn't eat fancy tables or perfect silverware. I couldn't help but glance across the street, where Amanda's formal dinners continued like clockwork. But now, instead of feeling excluded, I felt something different, a sense of peace, of building something authentic and meaningful. One Sunday, as our growing group settled onto blankets and mismatched garden chairs, Tom surprised us by coming home early from his business trip. He stood at the garden gate for a moment, taking in the scene, children playing between the vegetable rows, adults chatting and sharing dishes, laughter floating on the evening breeze. "This is beautiful," he said softly, sitting beside me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I squeezed his hand. "I wanted you to see it for yourself." That evening, Tom helped Sophia give everyone a tour of her expanding garden. She proudly showed off the pumpkin patch she'd started, the herb spiral Ms. Rose had helped her design, and the butterfly garden that was attracting colorful visitors. Next week, Sophia announced, "We're going to have a harvest celebration. Everyone's invited." The following Sunday, our garden dinner transformed into something magical. Maria brought fairy lights that we strung between the tomato stakes. Emily arrived with a guitar, filling the evening with gentle music. Ms. Rose taught the children how to make flower crowns from garden blooms. The scent of grilling vegetables and fresh herbs mingled with the sound of multiple languages, English, Spanish, and the universal language of laughter. Children darted between the garden rows, playing hide and seek, their giggles carrying across the neighborhood. I was setting out a fresh batch of herb-roasted potatoes when I noticed movement at Amanda's house. The usual Sunday dinner crowd was there, but something was different. The younger cousins were pressed against the windows again, watching our celebration. Even some of the adults seemed distracted, their eyes drawn to our twinkling lights and the sound of music. Mrs. Anderson. It was Tommy, one of the Martinez twins, holding up a massive zucchini. "Can we invite my friend Jack? He lives over there." He pointed directly at Amanda's house. I felt my heart skip. Jack was Amanda's youngest son. Before I could respond, we heard the sound of running feet. Jack had already spotted Tommy and was racing across the street, followed by his cousins. They stopped at our garden gate, uncertainty mixing with curiosity on their faces. Sophia, wearing her flower crown, walked over to them. "Want to see our pumpkin patch? We're going to have enough for Halloween." The children needed no further invitation. Soon they were exploring the garden, exclaiming over the growing pumpkins, asking Sophia endless questions about how things grew. I held my breath, waiting for Amanda to appear and demand her son's return. Instead, it was Kate who crossed the street, carrying a homemade apple pie. I thought, maybe, she hesitated at the gate. The kids seemed to be having fun. Tom stepped forward, taking the pie from his sister. "There's always room for more at our table," he said quietly. "Even if that table is a picnic blanket." Kate's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We've been so wrong." I wanted to say many things in that moment about hurt and exclusion, about the pain of watching family gather without you. But looking at our garden, at this beautiful community we created out of that pain, I realized something important. Sometimes the best response to exclusion isn't to seek inclusion, but to create something new and wonderful of your own. "Would you like to join us?" I asked instead. "Sophia's about to show everyone how to harvest moonflowers. They only bloom at sunset." As Kate stepped into our garden sanctuary, I caught a glimpse of Amanda watching from her window. Her expression was complex. Surprise, confusion, perhaps even a touch of longing. But for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel the sting of her rejection. Our garden feast continued into the evening, the fairy lights twinkling like stars among the vegetables. The children's laughter mixed with guitar music and conversations in multiple languages. It wasn't the formal family dinner Amanda had always insisted upon, but it was something perhaps more precious, a genuine celebration of community, growth, and the simple joy of sharing food grown with love. As I watched Sophia teaching Jack and his cousins how to tell when a tomato was perfectly ripe, I realized that sometimes the most beautiful traditions grow from unexpected seeds. And our garden feast was blooming into something far more meaningful than I could have imagined. But the real surprise was still to come, and it would arrive in a way none of us expected. The following week brought an unexpected autumn heat wave. As I tended the garden early Sunday morning, I noticed our tomato plants drooping despite the early hour. The forecast predicted record temperatures, and I worried about our planned garden dinner. Sophia came outside in her gardening overalls, her face concerned. "Mom, the plants look sad." "They're just hot, sweetheart. Maybe we should cancel dinner today. It's going to be too warm to eat outside." Before Sophia could respond, we heard a familiar voice. "Nonsense. You just need some shade." Ms. Rose stood at the garden gate, holding a large rolled-up canvas. Behind her, Emily carried poles and rope. "My late husband was a sailor," Ms. Rose explained. "He taught me that a good canvas sail can create the perfect shade. We use this for beach picnics." Within an hour, our garden was transformed. The canvas created a beautiful canopy over our dining area, providing much-needed shade. The Martinez family arrived early to help set up more lights and bring extra chairs. Emily started setting up fans she borrowed from the bakery. Then something truly unexpected happened. Amanda appeared at our gate, looking uncomfortable but determined. In her arms, she carried a large box. "I found these in the attic," she said hesitantly. "They were Mom's old electric fans. Vintage, but they still work. I thought maybe you could use them." Sophia, ever the diplomat, rushed forward. "Aunt Amanda, want to see how big the pumpkins got? We named one after you because it's so pretty." A flash of emotion crossed Amanda's face, surprise, then something softer. She let Sophia lead her through the garden, listening as my daughter proudly explained each plant and flower. I watched them, remembering how things used to be before the Sunday dinner divide. Amanda and I had once been close, sharing dreams and secrets. What had changed? As if reading my thoughts, Amanda turned to me. "Sarah, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Watching your garden dinners, seeing how everyone comes together here. It's made me realize something." She paused, looking around at the community we built. Maria was setting up a table of food, her twins helping arrange dishes. Ms. Rose and Emily were stringing up more lights. Kate's children were playing with the Martinez kids among the plants. "I thought I was preserving family tradition with my formal dinners," Amanda continued. "But somewhere along the way, I forgot what those traditions were really about. It was never about perfect place settings or formal invitations. It was about bringing people together." I felt tears prick my eyes but remained silent, letting her continue. "When Mom was alive, her dinners weren't formal at all. Remember? She'd let us eat in the backyard, tell us stories about her childhood garden. Everyone was welcome." Her voice cracked. I tried so hard to keep the family together my way that I ended up tearing it apart instead. Before I could respond, Sophia came running back. "Mom, the moonflowers are starting to open early because of the shade. Can we invite everyone to watch?" Amanda looked at me questioningly. I took a deep breath. "Everyone includes you," I said softly. That evening, our garden dinner became something magical. Under the canvas canopy, with vintage fans whirring and fairy lights twinkling, two families became one again. Amanda's formal dinner crowd merged with our garden community, creating a beautiful chaos of laughter, stories, and shared food. My mother-in-law, who had followed Amanda over, sat with Ms. Rose, exchanging gardening tips and family recipes. The children darted between adults, showing off Sophia's vegetable kingdom. Tom stood with his sisters, their heads close together, bridges being rebuilt through quiet conversation. As the sun set and the moonflowers began their nightly show, Amanda found me by the herb garden. "I owe you an apology," she said. "A big one." I shook my head. "What matters is now." "No," she insisted. "I need to say this. I was jealous, Sarah. You always made everything look so effortless. Being a mom, having a career, even growing this amazing garden." My formal dinners were my way of trying to prove I could create something special too. But look what you've built here. She gestured at the joyful gathering. This is what family really means. Sophia appeared between us, wearing a new flower crown. Aunt Amanda, want to learn how to make one? I used flowers from the garden. As I watched my sister-in-law let my daughter weave flowers into her perfectly styled hair, I realized that sometimes the best traditions aren't the ones we try to preserve, but the ones we allow to grow naturally, like the plants in our garden. 1 year later, our Sunday tradition has evolved into something beautiful. We still host garden dinners, but now they rotate between houses. Amanda's formal dining room has been opened to the garden, her perfect table settings relaxed to accommodate children's art projects and gardening experiments. The Martinez family taught everyone to make tortillas. Ms. Rose shares stories of her sailing adventures, and the children have started a neighborhood gardening club. Every Sunday, as I watch our expanded family gather, related by blood or choice, I think about how the very exclusion that once caused so much pain led to something wonderful. Our garden didn't just grow vegetables, it grew understanding, forgiveness, and a new kind of family tradition. Sophia puts it best, as she told Amanda recently while they planted new flowers together. Gardens are like families, Aunt Amanda. They need different kinds of plants to be healthy. And sometimes the most beautiful flowers grow in unexpected places. Looking at our Sunday gathering, I couldn't agree more.